Hello guys and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. No preview videos or anything this week as Arsenal don't have a game as it's FA Cup weekend and Arsenal failed at the first hurdle against Liverpool a few weeks ago, so we're not in the FA Cup unfortunately. And so yeah, there's not been much to talk about in terms of a game coming up, but as it is transfer season, as much as Arsenal ain't going to do anything in this window, maybe a loan at best. But with the second half of the season coming, I thought I would just talk about what I think Arteta needs to do or may look to do to complete his squad in the summer and finally come up with a title-winning team. I think we got a foundation of a great team there. You've got the likes of Saliba at the back, who has all the potential to be the best defender in the world. A lot of people might argue on form he currently is. You've got Gabriel, I think, is brilliant. Next to him, I think their partnership's amazing. Declan Rice has all the ability to be the best holder in the world. I think Odegaard's sensational in front of him. Then you've got Saka and Martinelli, and I don't care how poor of a season they may be having. I believe once they come through this little bit of a dip, I believe those two could go on to be two of the best wide players in the world. And then you've got, a few very solid players around them as well. So, we have got a good squad, and it could be easy to forget that with some of the recent results, but it's still a good squad and it has a good core, but there are still a few pieces missing to take us to that next level, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now. So in my opinion, we're probably looking at, I think Arsenal need maybe 5 or 6 players in the summer, and those positions for me would be a striker, a right winger, two midfielders, someone who can play 6 and someone who can play as the 8, a defender of some kind, and then we're going to need a backup goalkeeper with Ramsdale more than likely leaving. But in terms of the goalkeeper, I'll just quickly get the goalkeeper out of the way. Who that number 2 is, I'm not really that bothered, in all honesty, as long as they're half competent. David Raya is going to be the number 1 at Arsenal. He just is. As much as I don't think he should be, and I think a lot of people, agree, he just is going to be the number 1. So, unless you're going to bring in a top world-class keeper and make Raya your number 2, I don't think it really matters too much who the number 2 is. So, yeah, let's just go to the defence. I'm going to start from the back and work my way up. Look, in the defence, I think it's interesting because when you look at our numbers of how many defenders we got, we don't look too bad. Problem is, you can't rely on some of them for being fit. Mainly Tomiyasu and Zinchenko. They always pick up knocks here throughout the season and they miss little chunks of games at times. Zinchenko not as much this season. I think he's missed maybe three or four maybe. But Tomiyasu, we know, picks up these little injuries for fun. And it is a big problem because Tomiyasu is so important to this team. He's such a versatile player. He's the only one who can really play right back, left back and centre back really well. And I think Arteta relies on him in some games, especially like big games away from home. I'm sure Arteta would love to rely on him to play him at Anfield, at the Etihad, at Old Trafford, at Chelsea, at Spurs, but he's never there. So that's why Zinchenko has to play these games. Zinchenko is perfect for 85% of games, but when them big away games come, you really don't want Zinch in that team if you can avoid it. So I'll look at it and let's go through the numbers. So in terms of fullbacks, you've got Ben White, Timber, Tomiyasu, who can all cover right back. In terms of centre back, you've got Saliba, Gabriel, who are obviously your mainstays. You've got Kivior, who can rotate in and out of there. White can play there and Tomiyasu can play there. And then on the left back, you've got Zinchenko, Timber and Tomiyasu, who can potentially play there. So numbers-wise, it doesn't look too bad, but the problem is that they just don't stay fit. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what do we need more? Is it a fullback or a centre-back? I'm not 100% sure on this, so come the summer I might change my mind. But at this moment in time, look, at the moment, Arsenal probably need a fullback more because of Timber's injury, etc. But I'm looking more for the long term, assuming that, he comes back and he's fit and he's playing well. I think we might need a centre-back more than a full-back. And the reason being is because Gabriel and Saliba both play any game and every game that sort of means anything, He doesn't trust Kivior to rotate him in and out, Ben White hasn't really played centre-back properly for a while. I know we had a couple games there at the beginning of the season when Arteta was doing some weird stuff, but realistically, I don't think he particularly wants to use Ben White as a centre-back anymore. So I think getting another centre-back in could be really important. We've been linked recently to Matthias de Ligt of Bayern. Someone apparently Arteta is very interested in. I can believe that. I think it makes a lot of sense. He's also got top level experience in Europe, you know, playing for Ajax, Juve and Bayern. Played in the Champions League. He's won league titles. He's captain Ajax at a very, very young age. So profile wise, I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, he's very good on the ball. He's a good defender. And he's a big threat from set pieces. You know, he scores a lot of goals. I say a lot of goals. He scores a fair amount of goals for a centre back. So I could see that having legs to it. But then I think, how much are they going to want for him? You know, I can imagine it being quite an expensive transfer. And I think, do we need to spend that much on a centre back? I'm not too sure. You look at another player I like who's been loosely linked in the past would be Gahey at Palace. Again, I think he has all the right attributes to play for Arsenal and to play for any of the top 6 teams. Very good on the ball, good in the air, solid defender. So I think any one of those two could be a good option at centre back. And if you are looking at fullbacks, I mean, there's a few players I believe you could look at, but you got to think money and really realistically on the players as well. You've got obviously Frimpong doing really well at Leverkusen under Xabi Alonso, you know, getting a lot of goal contributions and stuff. So maybe that might be someone Arteta looks at in terms of more of an attacking option as a fullback. I've not watched a lot of him. I've not watched a lot of their games this season, but I just, you know, his reputation's growing. And, you know, you just have to look at his stats and you know he's scoring a lot of goals and contributing to goals. If you're looking at a left back, which I think if we are looking at a full back, it would be a left back more so than a right back. Estepinian maybe. Brighton, I think he's a very, very, very good full back. Defensively, pretty good. You know, he's a decent defender, but he's very good offensively as well. Perhaps a little bit more of a traditional left back, whereas obviously we know Arteta likes to invert from the left with Zinchenko. But this is all about getting options to be different, you know. My dream sign as a fullback would be Theo Hernandez at AC Milan, but that would be way too much money, and I can't see Arsenal going for that sort of transfer. But I think he would be brilliant. I think he would solve a lot of problems for us. Offensively, he's brilliant. He's a decent enough defender. He's played centre-back a few times for Milan this season. And he's got good free kick on him. And that's something I think Arsenal actually need. I think we need a good set piece taker. And I think that's something missing from the squad. But like I said, realistically, that's just not going to happen. But yeah, I think we're more likely to get a defender. But who, I'm not 1,000,000% sure. Like I said, I'm just, you know, with De Ligt and Gahey, they're more just players we have been linked to in the past. So maybe that's something Arteta will look at. But we definitely need someone, whether it is a centre-back or a full-back or a hybrid, is going to be someone coming in defence. I'm pretty sure of it. Moving on to midfield. So the two names most heavily linked have been Martin Zubimendi of Real Sociedad and Andre Onana of Everton. And I could see them two both coming in, to be honest. I could see them being two players who Arteta heavily goes for anyway. The reason why I think we need two is there's going to be a few outgoings this summer, I'd imagine. I think Partey leaves. I think El Neni Def 100% leaves. You look at, I know Lokonga's not here this season anyway, but Lokonga will probably go. Vieira, I think, might be one who leaves. I think Vieira's got a lot of ability, especially in the final third, but I don't think the Premier League suited to him. I think he's too frail, and I don't think he'll ever have the stones to make it work, personally. I know there's been smaller players in the Premier League, like Bernardo Silva, who's one of the best players in the Premier League. I don't think Fabio Vieira has that same fight in him that someone like Bernardo Silva has. So it wouldn't surprise me if he looks to get moved on. You know, Partey's a shame because profile-wise, we need a Thomas Partey, basically. And we've missed him this season. He's a fantastic player. When he's fit, he's world-class, but he's not fit enough. You can't rely on him. He has to go. And this will be the last time you can potentially get any kind of money in for him. So he's got to go. So Jorginho's another one who may leave. I think I've got to mention him. Personally, I would give him a contract for another year. I really, really like Jorginho. He's never let Arsenal down. I know people will point to the Spurs game, but one mistake, you know, and everyone's entitled to make a mistake. I think he's really good. I think he's really solid every time he plays. He keeps us ticking. And I think Rice's best games for Arsenal have come when Jorginho's been playing. So I would be very tempted to keep him for another year if he's okay with being the third choice. And then you look at someone like Zubimendi, who seems to be Arteta's, you know, real dream midfield signing, if you believe all the reports. And I could see it because he's very similar to Jorginho in a way. He's very good on the ball. He's a different type of holding midfielder to like Rice, who's a bit more all action, winning tackles, interceptions and stuff like that, and the more physical presence. He's more someone who, you know, he will snap into his tackles and his challenges and stuff, but he's more of someone who plays the holder as a controller. You know, he comes deep for the ball. He'll link up with the defence. He'll help us play out. Got a very good range of passing. He can play the nice short passes, but he's got good long range passes as well. And I think he's someone who Arteta would really love to play with Rice in most games. I think it'd help us get control, a lot more control with the game. It'd give Rice the licence to go in that box-to-box role. And for a release clause of around about 53 million, I believe he's about 24. You know, he's had experience in the Champions League this season. He's played in a top league. I think he's going to be one who Arteta really, really pushes for in the summer. Whether he can get him or not is a different question. You know, Barca are interested in him. Bayern are interested in him. So he's clearly a good player to have all these top clubs after him. But I think profile-wise, he could be perfect for Arsenal. And I think he's going to be one Arteta really pushes for. Whether he gets him or not, it's another story. But I can see him being our main midfield target. And then potentially Andre Onana to maybe come in with him. Again, profile-wise, I think it makes sense. You're bringing in an absolute fucking unit of a man. He's about 6'5", I believe. He's quick, he's strong, powerful. Technically, he's a really good player as well. And I think he would operate as sort of that 8 role in certain games. I think he'd be someone who Arteta maybe in a tougher away game or just a tougher physical game in general, he would look to bring Onana in maybe next to Rice and just absolutely physically dominate and run all over a midfield. You know, he's an absolute unit. So in the air from set pieces, both defending and attacking, he would be an unbelievable weapon for Arsenal. You probably get him for around about 50, 60 mil as well. So you're probably looking at about 110 million for the two of them, ish, maybe. And I think it would give Arteta and Arsenal a real good core of midfielders who can all fulfill different roles. And it'll be a way of making Arsenal more unpredictable and harder to prepare for an opponent to face. Because you'd look at it, you'd have Zubimendi, Rice, Jorginho as probably the 3 options as a 6. You could play Onana there as well if you needed to. But then you look in the 8, you've probably got Rice, who I think would become the main 8. Onana, Havertz, Smith-Rowe could all play there as well. And then you've got obviously Smith-Rowe and Havertz and that who can play on the other side of the 8, where Odegaard will obviously mainly play. So it'll give you a lot of different options, a lot of chances to mix things up in game, which I don't think we're very good at the minute, and that might be just because we don't have the options Arteta wants to become more as an unpredictable team and do more in-game changes. So I could see them two being 2 very viable options, and it would not surprise me if come start of the season, next season, you've got those 2 in your matchday squad. Personally, for me, one player I'd love Arsenal and Arteta to look at would be Nicolo Barella of Inter Milan. I think in that left 8 role, he would be absolutely perfect for us, which is where I think, as much as I said, I think Rice's best games have been as an 8 when Jorginho has played, and I do think that. But I think if you can get a more specialist 8, like a Barella, playing next to Odegaard, and you have Rice then sitting there and cleaning up, I think it would make Arsenal a really, really good team. I think he's such a good player, man. He's brilliant on the ball. He's tenacious. He's not the biggest. He's quite a short player, but enough gets stuck in. He'll get around the pitch. Technically, he's brilliant. He can create goals. He can score goals. He can take a good free kick, which is something, like I said before, I don't think Arsenal have. And, you know, it might make us bet better from corners as well to have an actual specialist out there, which I know sounds crazy to say, considering we're the best at corners in the league at the moment. But I always think, imagine if you have someone who's actually a real specialist to putting those kind of balls in. I'm not saying he's like a Maddison, James Ward-Prowse sort of level, but he's more competent than the players, I believe, who we have currently. For me, that would be my dream signing. So a lot of this video is going to be what I think will happen and realistically what might happen, and a dream sort of signing. Barella would be my dream of the midfield. I think he would fit into us brilliantly. I don't know whether he'd come. You know, he's an Italian guy, and Italians don't always like leaving Italy. He was linked with Newcastle last season before they signed Tonali. So maybe there is options there. I think Newcastle were linked for around about 60, 70 million, which I would pay in a heartbeat for him. I think he's brilliant, but probably not going to happen. But if you can get Zubimendi and Onana as more of a realistic targets, I think personally your midfield's looking really, really strong. Anyway, moving on to the front line. Let's go with the right wing, because I think we can fly through this. I think we definitely need a right winger more than a left winger. On the left wing, I think you've got Martinelli, and I think, obviously, you've got Trossard at the minute and Nelson, but I still think, personally, Smith Rowe's best games for Arsenal have come on that left-hand side, and I think between him and Martinelli, you could switch it up between them and have different options. I really do, but it's a big second half of the season for Smith Rowe to see if he can stay fit and get back to that sort of level that we've all seen him have. If he can, then I believe he could be that sort of option out there. It's weird because the left 8 role should be tailor-made for Smith Rowe, but I just don't think he does well there. I really don't. But like I said, we'll see second half of the season, and then some of these opinions may change. But on the right wing, there's no doubt we need someone else. We need a cover for Bukayo Saka. We've needed it for a long, long time. Since he's come into the team, he's not really had it. He had Pepe at one point, who he kind of like displaced from the team, but Pepe was never quite it at Arsenal, was he? So, looking at the right wing, there's been one name who's been heavily linked to Arsenal for a couple of seasons, and that is Pedro Neto. Having a brilliant season at Wolves, did have that unfortunate hamstring injury. Before that, he had the most assists in the Premier League. He still might actually have the most assists in the Premier League, or joint most assists. And I think he would be perfect for Arsenal, Pedro Neto. He can easily cover on the left-hand side as well. He plays a fair few games for Wolves on the left-hand side. Brilliant cross on him. Quick, tricky, can definitely make goals. Probably needs to improve his numbers in terms of a goal scoring wise, but he has been very unfortunate with injuries. You know, he had a really bad knee injury. I can't remember whether it was his ACL or something else, but he was out for a while, and that would be the one concern. His injury record. He does pick up a lot of knocks and injuries. However, if he's playing more of a backup / rotation sort of player for Saka, instead of the main man in a team having to play week in, week out, those injuries might lighten up a bit because he might not be on the pitch as much. And I think he'd be a brilliant option to cover, like I said, Saka, but also cover both sides. If you look at his stats this season, in 12 games, he's got 7 assists and 1 goal. So like I said, he creates a lot of goals. He probably needs to work on scoring more. But that return, 8 goal contributions in 12 games is really good. And that would be a very dangerous weapon for Arsenal on the bench and starting games, with then Saka potentially sitting on the bench some games. And in the Champions League, hopefully if Arsenal are back in that, the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Premier League, that could be really vital. Because I want to go for all these competitions. I don't want to keep, going out the Carabao Cup on a whimper, and the FA Cup record under Arteta is fucking shocking. So to make that better, we got to improve the squad. I think Pedro Neto could be a great shout. A couple of other options. You obviously got Elise at Palace, but again, as talented as he is, he does have his injury problems. But he would be another one I'll definitely look at. Very good creator of goals and a goal scorer. Look at his stats in 9 games this season, but that's what I mean. 9 games is just not enough. He's got 5 assists. Is it 5 assists? 5 goals, 1 assist. So a bit more of a goal scorer than Pedro Neto is. Again, has a decent free kick on him. But it's just that injury record. But again, for the same argument, if he's not playing as many games, he might be okay. But let's see how he does second half of the season, see if he can stay fit when he's back at Palace. But I think there'll be a lot of people looking at him. I think he has a relatively decent release clause at the end of the season. I'd have to look into that, I'm not 100% sure. But I think he might have a release clause of around about 50 mil. So I think United are definitely want him. Chelsea tried to get him last season. So he will be a hot topic of the summer, I would imagine. Another bit of a rogue shout would be Kubo of Real Sociedad. Again, I've not seen bundles and bundles of him, but I've watched a couple of their games this season and he does stand out to me. Really quick, young. I think he's from Japan. I might be wrong. Really quick, skillful, good left foot. You look at his stats this season, he's having a really good season. You know, in 18 games, he scored 6 goals and got 3 assists from right wing. You know, in a decent team in Spain, but not one of like the real big boys. I think he could be someone people might look at, especially if he continues to have a good season. We'll see him more in the Champions League. I think they got PSG in the next round, and it wouldn't surprise me if Sociedad do something against PSG. And I think he might be someone who people might take more note of. But if I was going for one out of the 3, it would be Pedro Neto for me personally, just because I've seen him more of him in the Premier League. There will be other options out there, but those are sort of, you know, Neto and Elise are the main 2 you look at in the Premier League who might move. And then Kubo's just one who I've noticed throughout the season who I quite like the look of. But there will be other options out there. And then, you know, the big one of the summer will probably be the centre-forward role. And there are a lot of options for this and a lot of debate around who Arsenal should go for. So let's talk the realistic signings first of all. Ivan Toney's obviously the biggest one we've been linked with. You know, there's been a few rumours that if he didn't get his ban, we would have went for him in the summer and he'd potentially be in the team now. He come back from his ban the other day. He obviously scored against Forest, was it? Yeah, Forest. And overall had a great game. Thing is with Toney, there's just 2 things that turn me off. One, it is the whole betting scandal and everything. There's too much sort of noise around him. They made this big deal with him coming back and all this, playing like the Undertaker music and look who's back and all this rubbish. The geezer didn't get badly injured or mistreated, you know, he was betting. So he got banned for doing something wrong. But, and his age, sorry, is another thing. He'll be 28 in March. And I think for the sort of money that's been rumoured, I mean, come the summer when he only has a year left, you might be looking at 60 mil, which I think would be fair for Ivan Toney. But to get him out in January, they wanted 100 million, and I wouldn't go nowhere near that personally. However, there are a lot of positives around Ivan Toney, and he is a player I really do like, and I think would do well for Arsenal. I think profile-wise, and I'm not saying ability-wise, I'm not saying he's as good as this player, but profile-wise, I think he might be one of the closest things you could get to a Harry Kane, who for me is the best striker in the world. Ivan Toney is very good at coming deep and linking up play, very strong with his back to goal. Brilliant in the air, brilliant penalty taker, can score free kicks like he did against Forest the other day. As I said, creates chances for teammates, which I think is really important at Arsenal when you have wingers like Saka and Martinelli. I think he could, you know, distract defenders massively with his physical presence. You can go long to him. You know, Raya got massive credit for his for being good with his feet because he's hitting so many balls up to Ivan Toney, and that's why his stats are so good. I just think Ivan Toney is a brilliant all-round player, but it's just that age and price tag that turns me off. If he was a little bit younger, I wouldn't really care. But I just think if you're looking to spend massive money for a player, you might get the best out of for 3-4 years. Yes, okay, that could be enough to win you a Premier League or something, but you also risk. I think it's just a little bit of a risk because if it doesn't work, you're not going to have any resale value on him. But profile-wise, I think it's perfect. Another man I think is perfect, who profile-wise is a bit similar to Toney, would be Dusan Vlahovic. Sorry, couldn't get his name out. From Juve. Very similar to Toney. Very good with his back to goal. He's left-footed, whereas Toney's right-footed. Good in the air, can score free kicks and score penalties. And that's what I think is really important with these 2 players. I think they score a range of goals, which is something we're going to need at Arsenal. The advantage for him is that, you know, he's a good few years younger than Toney, but the disadvantage is he hasn't played in the Prem. And also, he's another one who's got a lot of noise around him. There always seems to be some sort of whispers about him maybe not being happy or this, that and the other. And one thing I don't want at Arsenal is drama. I can't stand it. Which is what turns me off of some of the other players we will speak about. But yeah, I mean, you look at both of their stats. I can't give you Tony's stats from this season, obviously, because he's only played one game and scored 1 goal. So it's a bit unfair because he's been banned. So I want to use Tony's stats from last season. In the Premier League, he played 33 games, got 20 goals and 4 assists. Yeah, and I know a lot of people say, oh yeah, but I don't know how many of his goals, maybe 5 or 6 of his goals were pens. I don't give a fuck. We need a penalty taker who, you know, when he's taking that pen, whether it's the 90th minute or the first minute, he's scoring. When Harry Kane takes a pen, you know he's going to score it. Of course, they will all miss pens because they miss pens from time to time, but 98 times out of 100, you know he's probably scoring. And I really think we need that. And I think Ivan Toney would be brilliant for that. When Saka, Odegaard, and whoever else at Arsenal step up to take a pen, I'm not the most confident. I don't really like it. So I want a striker who, when he has that ball, have full confidence he's going to score. And I believe Ivan Toney would do that. Then you have Vlahovic this season. In 19 games, he's got 11 goals and 3 assists. And he's really started to turn his form around, because I don't think he had the great season last season. But right now, he's starting to really kick on. I was watching their game the other day. Can't remember who they were playing, but he scored 2 goals in that game. 1 from outside the box. You know, he comes sort of outside the box, got it. First touch out of his feet, bang, whipped it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the keeper should probably save it, but you know, he's hit it into a good area with pace. It's gone in. Then he has a free kick from a similar area, bangs it over the wall. Again, keeper, okay, he should probably save it, but it goes in. Again, good range of goals. Then he had a game a few weeks back. Again, sorry, I can't remember who it was against, but I think Cuadrado put the cross in, and he's, you know, towered above defenders and headed it in. We don't have a player who can do that. Whereas I think Vlahovic and Ivan Toney could both do that. And those two would be right up there for me in terms of people I would be realistically looking at. So I think they are both attainable. Maybe not Vlahovic, because you don't know how much he would want to leave. Seems, you know, we were sort of linked with him a couple of seasons ago, and it seems like a lot of people say, oh, he picked Juventus over us, fuck him. But I don't know how much them links to Arsenal were even real. And to be honest, I don't care. You know, maybe he did go Juve now, but maybe he wants to come to Arsenal now. I don't know. And then to be right out there for me. Another man who's going to be the story of the summer will be Victor Osimhen. Look, just before I go into this, I will take Victor Osimhen all day long. Profile-wise, he's brilliant. He's big, quick, strong, scores headers, different types of goals. Brilliant, brilliant player. The thing is, for me, with Osimhen, I just feel like there's too much drama around him. And again, I can't stand drama. Like, he's always seems to be being spoken about lately. He's arguing with their wingers agent, Kvaratskhelia, I can't really say his name properly, had an argument with his agent recently. He seems to be falling out with Napoli president. Now he's coming out recently saying he already knows what he's doing in the summer. And yeah, I just can't stand stuff like that, to be honest. Yeah, I do think he's a bit hit and miss as well. You look in the AFCON especially, he's missed some proper bad chances. I do think he's a bit hit and miss, and I just think for the price of him, his release clause is about 103 mil. Yeah, you might be able to negotiate a little bit more with Napoli and get it down, but I just think, I don't know, something about it just doesn't feel right to me. And I personally would maybe look at Toney or Vlahovic before him. But again, look, if we did sign him, I would be very happy, because profile-wise, he is very exciting, and I do think neutrals would be more fearful if we signed him than if we did sign like a Toney. But I don't know, there's just something about him for me that's just not quite sitting right. Don't think he's that much of like a clinical finisher, and I think there's just too much noise around him, and I don't want that at Arsenal, because at Arsenal we have quite a good harmony in the group, and I don't want anyone to potentially come in and ruin that. My dream signing, and I've obviously said a few of these, might be a bit rogue, because, you know, he probably don't have the goal scoring records of some of the players I've said, but Alexander Isak, on Newcastle, I think would be perfect for Arsenal. He's quick, he's good in behind, he's skillful, he can drift left, right, everywhere. For Newcastle, I think he's brilliant. I really, really do. Again, is he as much of maybe a clinical finisher as some of the others? Maybe not, but I just look at it and I think he would fit so perfectly at Arsenal, and don't know, there's just something about him I really, really like. Profile-wise, I probably do prefer a Toney or Vlahovic, weirdly enough, because I want someone who can score all types of goals, free kicks, penalties, headers, tap-ins, you know, long ranges, everything. And that's why I think Tony and Vlahovic are perfect profiles for us. But I'd love Isaac as well. And just to take him off Newcastle as well would be great. But again, it's a bit of a dream. I think he's quite unrealistic due to the fact he plays for Newcastle. I know they have their financial fair play problems, but we do as well. And, you know, I think you're looking at probably 100 mil for Isaac, and I don't think I'd quite pay that. I think the player Arsenal will get will probably be Tony, to be honest. I think he'd make the most sense in terms of a profile fit of what Arteta would want, because you could play him instead of Jesus and with Jesus. Jesus is another option who can cover out wide for us. So maybe he might look at a Tony and think, if I can just get a Tony in, if I want to rest Saka, maybe I can just play Jesus out there. Who knows? But I think Tony will be the one Arsenal get, and I think he will be a good sign for us. I don't think Arsenal need, well, everyone needs a 30-goal season striker, but apart from Haaland and Kane, there ain't one out there. You ain't gonna sign Mbappe either, so there's not really one out there at the minute. So you need the next best thing, or someone who can get you probably 20 and maybe create another 5 to 10. And I think Tony might be the man for that due to his experience in the Premier League. Look, 28's not exactly old, and, you know, you still can easily get 4 or 5 years out of him. It's not like he's a striker who relies heavily on his pace. And I think he could fit into Arsenal really well. And, you know, there might be times he sits out and Jesus plays up front. And again, it makes us, you know, a less predictable team. But I like the fact that, you know, if we are struggling or whatever, we can whack him up top, throw balls into him. We can finally start crossing balls with confidence from out wide. If you know someone like him is in the box and he can occupy and beat defenders. So, yeah, that's who I think Arsenal will get. So if we look at it, this is basically the squad I think Arsenal will have come next season. So you look at it, you'd have Raya in the backup keeper. Who that'll be, I don't know. And then you're looking at White, Timber, Tomiyasu, Saliba, Gabriel, Kivior, Zinchenko, and then another defender. The only reason I've put a question mark is because I'm not quite confident that to put a prediction who I think that player may be. So I'm not too sure. But then you look in midfield, Zubimendi and Nana, I think could be two very realistic options for us. And then that's obviously with the likes of Rice, Jorginho, Odegaard, Havertz. And then you look at Smith Rowe, etc. as well. In the front line, Jesus, Tony, Saka, Neto, Martinelli, Smith Rowe. And I ain't even mentioned Trossard. Trossard will be in there somewhere more than likely. So if you get all them players, I think you're looking at a real good squad who could win the league. Because you set that squad up right and you get lucky with injuries, that team can beat anyone in the Premier League. And there's no reason why you can't win a league, especially if, you know, and also you are hoping on them players picking up form as well. So that's how I think Arsenal and Arteta can complete his squad and become a team capable of winning the big honours. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is there anyone I've missed out that you think Arsenal should be looking at? And do you think these signings are realistic? I'm saying, you know, Onana, Zubimendi, Tony are realistic signings, Neto as well. But are they? Maybe not. Maybe there's someone I haven't thought of you think's better. Do let me know. Share the video as well and get other people's opinions on it. Let's have a debate on it. And yeah, thank you for watching. I know it's been quite a long one, longest one I've done. If you have stuck around, thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be doing a preview video for Arsenal Forest probably over the weekend. And yeah, we'll talk more during the week and next week. Thank you guys. Have a good weekend and a good rest of your week. Take care. Bye-bye.